How do you think you grew as a special teams unit last year? You had some new guys out there, new roles, that kind of thing, and then how will that experience kind of carry over to this year?
Yeah, so last year, I thought we did a good job playing more consistent than we have the previous few years. We were productive in pretty much every phase, and that's why we ended up being, top 5, 10 unit, depending on what rankings you were looking at. So we got more out of our return game. Last year, Isaiah, gave us some spark back there. Naheem was super consistent. We didn't have any huge returns back there in the punt phase, but he was consistently getting 10, 12, 15 yards a return. And, when we can steal a first down in that phase, that's huge. So, and I thought we covered a lot better in the kickoff phase than we have the previous few years. We've done a good job in punt, since I've been here. So I think that moving forward, we're always going to put an emphasis on coverage. And then, thankfully, Chris has brought me some, explosive returners. So in Naheem and Isaiah and other guys are going to get a shot. You saw DeMichael Harris out there today. He's an explosive player, so we're excited about him. Ashton can go back there. We have some good depth in our ball handlers that's going to help us, on game day.
Are you talking both return spots? You feel like there's competition at both return spots?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a lot of depth and a lot of speed, which is, as a special teams coordinator's, job. That's what you want. You want speed, and guys, number one is, possess the ball. So.
Maybe you went through this last year with the kicking competition. You have it again this year. What do you look for as a coach to sort of, if it's not going to be a close competition, what sets it apart?
I think, one of the traits you look for in any type of player, not just a specialist, is consistency. You want to get the same guy every day, okay? And, we felt like last year Rod's consistency, his ball flight, not a lot of variation on his kicks. You look for the same things in a position player. You want the same guy every day. It's hard to deal with a guy that is here one day, here the next day. You need a guy that's here and that's ascending, and that's what we saw in Rod last year. Now, look, Eddie's a talented player. He's explosive. He's had some injuries that he's been dealing with, but he's healthy now, and it'll be a good competition. We have 2 really good kickers in camp.
Without Rod, he misses 5 kicks last year, regular season. 4 of them hit the uprights of the bar. Does it matter? Is a miss, or do you look at misses differently? Evaluate?
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that his misses weren't bad misses to say, but no, I think that look, you got to get the ball through the uprights. So we got to figure out a way to eliminate those 5 kicks.
How do you see the competition going into camp, or at least now? Does Howard kind of have the edge, or does it even?
Ultimately, he's the guy that started for us all 16 games last year in versus Buffalo. So, he's going to be with the first unit. We're going to give Eddie opportunity. Eddie's going to kick in games. Rod's going to kick in games. And then I think it'll all just sort itself out. And look, in the NFL, there's competition at every position in training camp, not just the specialist position. So all these guys are dealing with, competition at their, respective positions. So I think that that's inevitable, that there's going to be competition. And you're not just competing with the players on our roster, you're competing with the entire league. Now there's preseason games to evaluate, and I think that that's a valuable tool now that that's back.
No, do you think Rod was a little tipped you guys brought in competition?
Excuse me?
Do you think Rod was a little peeved you guys brought in competition?
No, I think that ultimately competition brings out the best in you. Whenever he knew that we signed Eddie, he didn't blink. He's the same player, same person every day. That guy is super consistent, works hard, work ethic. The one thing that he did a good job of this offseason was he trained harder in the weight room. He came in bigger. He did a lot more with his body. He's more explosive, and you guys will see that, when you get to see him actually kick in a team setting. So I think that it can be a really good year for him.
What have you come to appreciate about Zach Pascal over the last couple of years?
So a few people realize that Zach Pascal was on this roster because he made a name for himself on special teams. When we played San Francisco his first year here, came down and made 2 tackles on the kickoff, impact plays inside the 20. And from there, it just continued to go like this. He was primarily, his first year was pretty much exclusively in the kicking game, and then he had opportunities next year. So now it's just, how much can I use him? I'd love to be able to use him every single down. It just depends on how much the offense is going to give him to me.
Is that for you as a special teams coach when you lose a guy almost to him playing so well on offense, or?
No doubt. I mean, everybody's goal is to play offense and be an offensive or defensive starter, maybe except Jordan Glasgow, because he knows that he's my guy. Okay, so your goal is ultimately to be a defensive or offensive starter, but the opportunities come about by playing in the kicking game. Look at, I mean, the best example of that is Terrell Davis, right? No one knew who Terrell Davis was. He comes out, makes ridiculous plays in the kicking game X amount of years ago, and then he ends up being a Hall of Fame running back. So there you go.
What I hear you saying is you're going to arm wrestle Frank for Zach. But
Of course. And Chris. So I'm like, our personnel meetings are no. And our personnel meetings are sometimes not a fight, but we get heated, and I gotta try to get my guys. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm gonna do. I'm always gonna go to bat for my guys, and that's how I roll.
What have the last 2 days been like for you, taking on more responsibilities out here with Frank on?
I gotta say, for Frank to put me in charge of running the practice is a huge honor for him to have that that faith and confidence in me. We've done a good job, me and him, communicating throughout the day and then at night for the recaps with the meetings, and he's in every meeting through Zoom, so the offense hasn't skipped a beat. I think the practices have gone smooth. I felt like the execution was much better today than it was yesterday. The energy's always been good here, so that's not an issue for us. Our guys understand, and Frank does a good job of laying the foundation for how we're expected to practice, the type of players they're bringing in, and understanding how to practice like a professional, staying off the ground, not making penalties. So he's done a great job. He's a great mentor for me, and I'm honored to be able to run it.
Were you surprised when he came to you and said, I want you to be, whatever, interim might not be the right word, but take more responsibility?
No, I wasn't surprised. Whenever he had to miss a practice day, maybe 2 years ago, it was a Friday. Someone had passed in his family, and I ran the practice the same way I did in season. So, like I said, I do the job the best of my ability, and I think he has a lot of confidence in me.
Is there a way to prepare for this, to be the runner practice? I mean, is it more that you just kind of analyze how Frank has done it since you guys have been here?
I mean, I've been in a lot of places. I've seen how a lot of things are run. I think Frank does a great job with communication and being organized. The practice faces and scripts were pretty much done offensively and defensively prior to training camp. So I think that helps. But overall, I think that, he just has confidence in me, and then the coordinators to be able to communicate with each other, and then obviously with the guys that are keeping the clock and all that, if we want to steal a rep in another period or, maybe cut a period short or whatever it may be. But I think that the one thing with our staff, Chris, Frank, the coordinators, we do a good job with communicating with each other. Everybody's on the same page. No one's ever caught off guard with something that happens in practice, injury, whatever it may be. There's from the training staff on down, it's been good.